Welcome everyone back to Spoiler Warning, featuring myself, Tom Colohue. This is wrestling news done right, and we are starting with a pretty political story overall that I kind of want to get through in order to get back to our normally scheduled programming. It is very much in the wheelhouse of The Undertaker and Donald Trump, so we're going to have that as our top story before getting to plenty more. We're going to talk Samantha Irvin announcing today that she's leaving the WWE. We're going to talk about Raw and SmackDown runtimes not being finalised and a pay dispute being a part of that. We're going to talk the WWE's international commitments, including multiple different countries, which we're going to be listing. We're going to talk a soft relaunch for AEW Creative, focusing around different styles than they were previously. Drew McIntyre's impending return to Monday Night Raw, as well as The Rock's recording of multiple different pieces of media in the brief time he was with the WWE after Bad Blood. Finally, we have something on Bo Dallas, talking about Bray Wyatt's hand-picked stars, as well as plenty more, which he spoke about in the USA Today interview. So we've got plenty of information there, plenty of different news stories. Let me know which one you're most excited for. Hit like as we get started. And of course, I'll be answering as many of your questions as I can as well. Let's start by going over that horribly political thing. The Undertaker invited Donald Trump, current presidential candidate and former president of the United States, onto his podcast for many reasons. One of the main reasons being that it certainly hasn't been the runaway success that The Undertaker was told it was going to be. The podcast is interesting, and having done my research on this one, it's not something I could necessarily refer to as fun. There are a number of different people within wrestling media and mainstream journalism who work with a number of different wrestlers. For example, Adam Bernard works with Blue Meanie, for example, Mind of the Meanie. That's a show that has been running for a while now. There are multiple different wrestlers working with multiple different individuals to make those shows and those podcasts. The Undertaker was assured that his would be the most successful one. It kind of just hasn't been, and for many reasons beyond that, he wanted to try and get some big name guests on and has booked Donald Trump. In addition to this interview, Undertaker and Kane, of course, the mayor of a county in Tennessee, also endorsed Donald Trump in that period, but this is not a surprise given that both are not only Republicans, but they are the Make America Great Again MAGA type Republicans. Now, in the interview, there's a number of things that have already come out. Trump, for example, could not remember Bobby Lashley's name despite apparently working with him at previous WrestleManias, but that's probably a good thing because Bobby Lashley is no longer with the company, so they probably didn't want that so far mentioned. WWE are also planning to take advantage of this, feeling that the political clout which The Undertaker will gain and the new eyes which essentially come from Donald Trump viewers will also be tempted to tune into wrestling hilariously Republican by and large and heavily capitalist. The Undertaker is planned to be involved in next week's NXT, and he'll be promoting that not just to promote his podcast, with the WWE have assured him they will be pushing, but also to boost the ratings after a pretty sharp drop from that first NXT, which did amazing numbers. Triple H, for those that don't know, is a staunch Republican. His thoughts on Trump, however, he apparently keeps to himself. Nick Khan is a clear capitalist, eager to work with recognisable big names and eager to work with The Undertaker on this basis. He was behind Goldberg's return, and he is behind ongoing negotiations to feature The Undertaker after this interview and promote it. Now, will this interview sway anything politically? No. I'm not really an American politics guy, but if debates watched by millions don't make any difference, surely The Undertaker won't either on his podcast, which is not watched by millions. Batista will have also made his impact on the other way around, but let's be honest, we know what this all comes down to. It comes down to the exact same thing that the UK election came down to. Say it with me. Taylor Swift. Of course it all comes down to Taylor Swift. How did we not know this already? I have not watched it. I've watched clips that were of interest. Outside of that, God knows I never want to watch either of these men again. The Undertaker's legacy hasn't been completely demolished. It's not been completely soiled. He is in danger, though, of going too far in a simple direction. Hilariously, those that always make a point of saying keep politics out of wrestling are also the same ones who want to see more of The Undertaker now. Interesting one, and very difficult to really keep track of. That was our top story as regards The Undertaker's interview of Donald Trump. Politics done. Politics out the way. I'm going to catch up with the chat and then I'll get to the rest of the news. The first story after this will be the Samantha Irvin leaving the WWE news. Bailey says, sorry to see Samantha go. No person is replaceable. It's time for the next person to step up and make their own history. I would say that's very much true. Certainly the WWE did miss Renee Young, though. Michael says, hi, Tom. Welcome, Michael. Daniel says, yo. Welcome, Daniel. Declan says, hi. Welcome, Declan. Leon says, hi, Tom. Hope you're doing well. Doing very well. Michael just says, boo, politics, boo, which I can't disagree with. Smartable says, I understand WWE want to slowly do the OG Bloodline reunion. We've seen the same segment on consecutive SmackDowns. Yes. Declan is sad that Samantha is gone, but is eager to continue watching the pig. Joey says, do you got any news on who will replace Samantha Irvin? More on that shortly. And Ishii says, hello, Tom. Hope you're okay. Doing well, thank you, Ishii. Thank you, Ed, for the clarification. It is Knox County in Tennessee. Ishii says, are we finally getting the Wyatt 6 tonight? I'm simply not willing to place any bets on this, given how long it's taken to get to where we are. Danielle says, hi Tom, any reason as to why we opted to have Dragon Lee and Ray instead of Zhao Qin and Cruz against the Creeds tonight? Zhao Qin and Cruz are the real team, not Ray and Lee. Cruz and Zhao Qin Wild, unfortunately, are simply not considered to be big enough deals, whereas you might tune in for Rey Mysterio. It says Mod Duty times 2 today because, well, politics. Fair. Very fair. We have 85 people watching, 23 likes. Let's keep those going. 2 more get us to 25. Michael says, not so sure I'd want to put out a statement on Twitter if I was Samantha. You know how people are and what they'll say. They're already saying it, as I'm sure you'll be well aware. People on Twitter, bitches. Sean says on his Hall of Fame podcast, Booker T said he's going to try and get Zilla Fatu signed by WWE. He's not going to. Future tense. He has been doing for a while, past tense. Dylan is also sorry to see Samantha Irvin leaving WWE. One says, speaking of Donald Trump, he was at a local McDonald's serving fries in Pennsylvania, which is a key state he's leading at the moment. To be clear, the McDonald's was closed. He wasn't serving a damn thing. As it says, Tom, do you see the Bloodline getting involved in the IC match? I do, yes. Though I do think we're heading into Crown Jewel with Jey Uso still the champion. I think it'll be a post-match beatdown. Bailey says, no one is changing their vote because of Mark Calloway has to say, period. I don't disagree with you. People tend to have already made their decision by now. Dylan says, Tom, do you see Jay losing the belt tonight because of the Bloodline? No. Calvin says, what's up, Tom? Welcome, Calvin. Good to see you. Joey says, do you have any news on TK and AEW's reaction to the low ratings against NXT? Somewhat. It's not a direct link, but there is news about AEW making a pivot to their programming. Rosal says, what do the people in the UK think about the current election in the US? Do you guys think America's cooked like we do? No. In the UK, we're pretty confident Kamala Harris will be winning. We were also confident Brexit wouldn't happen. So, Spider-Boss says, boo politics. Ron says, hey Tom, do you believe Samantha Irvin could be the new announcer for Collision or Dynamite? More on that shortly. Brad says, yo, hope you're well. Doing well, thank you, Brad. Welcome to the show. Craig says, hey Tom, I'm at Raw tonight. Watch the pig. I hope you get a chance to watch the pig directly, mate. Joey says, do you think Motor City Machine Guns win the titles now or at a later time? I don't believe WWE is live at the moment, so at a later time. Calvin says, Roman Reigns doesn't like Austin Theory, which he'd made clear in interviews. Do you think Theory feels the same way about Roman, and how do you think a feud between them will go? To be clear, if Roman doesn't like him, there will be no feud. Makes us hit like when you said Taylor Swift, hope it helps. I'm sure it will, mate, and I very much appreciate you for it. Tony says, hi, Tom, is Alexa the Y66 member? And is she taking the last 51A place? No. Declan says, I do miss Becky Lynch. Spider-Ball says, I think the new Bloodline will try to cost the IC title to Jay, but Jimmy makes the save. Ray says, what do you think of the debut of Motor City Machine Guns on SmackDown? Did what they needed to do, didn't overstay their welcome. Always a good combination. Dylan says, when do you see Paul Heyman returning? Because surely he must return before Survivor Series. Personally, I see him returning at Survivor Series. Trekipedia said earlier that I hope Samantha has a good time no matter what she does and got attacked for being nice. Sad how some people have to be cruel, you know? Yeah, I feel very lucky that I've really reduced the feed on Twitter to decent people. It's why I block. Unfortunately, blocks, not going to be the same thing. Awkward. I may need to, and I wanted to ask all of you guys this. There's 89 of you in here now, 32 likes, 3 more to 35, keep them going. But with 89 of you in here, I can ask the question. If I do decide to leave Twitter because, let's face it, it's a shit show, where would you like me to go? There's a couple of people suggesting that I move on to Facebook, where apparently the company is paying quite a lot for realistic and consistent content. Even potentially just good old-fashioned meme content could do quite well in a wrestling sphere. There is, of course, Threads, which is Instagram-based, so we could move to an Instagram-heavy comparison. We could also just go full-term on YouTube, and we could use a community page to share news in the same way that we have done, and you guys can interact there. We have a number of options. A villain says, hey Tom, hope you had a great weekend. Do you think the Wyatt 6 storyline picks up the pace soon? Well, it can't exactly slow down. Joey says, does Chris Jericho have creative freedom in his contract? How does learning tree stuff make it to TV every week? He does not have creative control or creative freedom. However, by and large, because of his experience, people allow him to do whatever he wants to do. Joe says, yo, welcome Joe. And Dad says, yo, Joe back. Spider-Boss says, any news on Lillian Garcia replacing Samantha Irvin? Going to PWInsider, Lillian Garcia is backstage on Raw tonight. More on that shortly. Daniela says, do you reckon Roman and Jimmy support Jay if Bloodline 2.0 interferes, and how will it all transpire? What I mean by that is it likely Solo and Co beat Jay down, then Jimmy and Roman save Jay. That would be spoiling Raw. Ishii says that we're getting the Wyatt 6 tonight. That will be spoiling Raw. Michael says, Scott D'Amore's MLP show was great yesterday. Didn't see all of the Saturday show. Daniela says, Motor City Machine Gun got no reaction. Yeah, they're brand new. Why would they? Shark Game says, not sure if I missed anything, but have they paused the strong TNA push on NXT? I believe Wentz's appearance on the 10-1 NXT was the last one. Yeah, they've chilled out again. Declan says, the WWE signing any more legends? Yes, they are. And Trekipedia says, everyone help out Tom with likes, subs and shares. Thank you, Trekipedia. Appreciate you. Follow me on Twitter if you haven't already. Also says, Instagram and Facebook would be good. Tom. Barry says, Blue Sky's calm but dead. Yeah, Blue Sky, obviously created by the same people who created Twitter, was of interest, but it just doesn't seem up and running. Calvin says, Giovanni, Vinci, Baron Corbin, Blair Davenport, Apollo Crews, Austin Theory and Grayson Waller better get a lot of TV time once SmackDown goes 3 hours, or I will be enraged. Leon suggests Instagram. King Azza also says Instagram. Joe says Facebook would be good. Sean says WWE announced that NXT will be doing a show on November 6th at ECW 2300 Arena in Philadelphia. The classics, indeed. Dylan suggests YouTube or Facebook. Michael says maybe YouTube. I don't have Facebook and rarely use Threads. This guy says, what is the latest update of Mike and Maria's contract status with AEW, and is there interest with WWE? Their contracts are running down. WWE are not said to be too interested. Guy says, I don't see Samantha Irvin replacing Justin Roberts in AEW. So let's get to that. Let's get to Samantha Irvin. She announced today on Twitter that she's leaving the WWE. Her time with the company is coming to an end. There's going to be a lot of assumptions I confirm here. Based on the news I've been given, she is simply leaving to spend more time with her partner. The separate companies that they now work for has created some issues, and they want to basically clear that air. Samantha Irvin has also been getting a lot of interest outside of the wrestling sphere, but has not been able to take up any of those offers because her WWE contract is exclusive. This is actually very similar to the Renee Young situation, who wasn't necessarily leaving WWE to go to AEW. She was leaving WWE because she wanted to do more than WWE. That is true of Samantha Irvin as well. It's been a tremendous platform for her. It's really helped her grow and really helped to ensure that people know who she is. It's time to walk away. I do expect Samantha Irvin to join AEW under a contract that allows her to continue her craft there and also ensure that she gets a lot of new eyes. But I expect it will take a little time yet, and she will be working a selection of shows that do not include Dynamite. Personally, I would agree that she is not going to be replacing Justin Roberts. I agree with Kai there. However, as I say, I do expect a little while before she appears in AEW. She will instead explore a lot of different options that are available to her. A number of offers have been made, and she is looking to grow on her own as well. Samantha Irvin is leaving the WWE. Joey says, do you think we'll see Paul Heyman back for NXT show in the ECW arena? Don't see why not. Ross says, do whatever is best for you, RE, grow for the channel. Do you get much from X? No, I really don't. I don't think I've really cracked X at this point. I don't think I've quite worked out what people want to see. We do pretty well overall, and every now and then we go a bit viral. I don't post enough there. That's kind of the problem. What I need to do is, in order to succeed there, is bombard X with controversial clickbait. I'm not that guy. Marcel says, hi Tom, what are your predictions for the Rumble matches? For me, Becky and The Rock. I'd agree with Becky, that's a good shout, but I would say Drew McIntyre. Spider-Boss says, after a few interactions, there isn't much hype for Liv versus Nia at Crown Jewel. True, I agree with that. Spider-Boss says, Instagram would be cool. Ross says, Blue Sky is a bit like Fred's, just never got going. Irish says, all the best, Tom. Welcome, Irish. Watch that pick. And Checkopedia says, do you think WWE will ever do an NXT show from Manhattan Center? Not sure on that one. Joe says, I think YouTube because we're all one big family. Certainly a good shout. And Checkopedia says, I heard Maple Leaf Wrestling was good. Scott always does good work. Sid said, all good things must come to an end as regards Samantha Irvin. And Michael says, seemed to be the same reason why Kayla left WWE too. That is correct. And another good example there. The exclusivity of the contracts in WWE causes problems for more than just the wrestlers. It's why Renee Young left. It's why Kayla Braxton left. There is opportunities out there that WWE does not let a Samantha Irvin take. So, if you got a chance, take it. I can't blame anyone for it. We have 90 people here and 43 likes, 2 more to 45. Keep that going. Dylan says, will Samantha be on Raw tonight? To my knowledge, she will be, yes. Whereas I said, I'm shocked Samantha. I thought WWE would offer her a huge deal or something. They wouldn't want it. Sean said, Tom, this is from WrestleVote's live Q&A. WWE is totally on board with bringing back AJ Lee. I reported on this almost a year ago that the WWE would just want her to say yes, and then they would move heaven and earth to make it happen. Almost a year ago, I reported on that one. What I have enjoyed recently on X, tell you this. Do you guys remember Into the Wrestleverse? You know, Big Troll, who came in and was like, I know CM Punk's coming. He's been signed for months. He hadn't been. And then made a big show of the fact that I didn't, despite the fact that the actual show and the thumbnail said CM Punk to WWE. Yeah, still trying to be a bully in Twitter. It's not working. Encouraged people recently to watch my Survivor Series post-show watch party, and said how surprised I was when CM Punk did debut. You should see the shock on his face, he said. Right before I reported exactly what deal had been struck with CM Punk, exactly how recently it was struck, and what the plans were for WrestleMania, which have already been confirmed by Triple H. Yeah, I was stunned. Totally surprised. I always love a troll. We have favourite trolls here. It's a shame that we don't get more of them. It's a shame. Hector says, realistically, Tom, why won't WWE allow contracted people to work outside of WWE for roles outside of wrestling? If you're WWE, wouldn't it be ideal to make everyone as marketable as possible? And that is part of some strategies. However, the contracts were written by Vince McMahon. He did not want people growing unless he could control their growth. Trekipedia says, have they said who will be the new announcer of Raw? They have not. They don't necessarily want someone to jump into Samantha Irvin's grave quite that quickly. Daniela says, when do you think it's best for Tiffany to cash in, and do you think it'll be a successful one? Probably, to be fair, Saudi Arabia. Because she could be a double champion. War Games is more likely. And yes, I do think it'll be successful. Sid says, do you think Roman will ever say Solo is his tribal chief? Yes, and then correct himself afterwards. You're my tribal chief. And a massive bitch. That sort of thing. As it says, Tom, what do you think will happen after the Bloodline story ends? Do you think ratings will drop? I don't think it'll end. I think the Bloodline storyline will continue to evolve for about 20 years. I think after Solo Sikoa has been in the top position for a couple of years, Jacob Fatu will take over. At that point, we'll be 5 years in. Calvin says, I feel like WWE should really consider putting main event back on syndicated TV, bringing back Shotgun Saturday Night and Sunday Night Heat. They don't want their wrestlers to wrestle that many dates, and they are trying to reduce the number of live shows. Chris said, does the Bloodline get involved in Jay's match tonight? I believe we will see them, yes. Calvin says, bringing back these shows is a good way for superstars who are not on the shows to shine, big. The ratings weren't enough to grow anyone. Barry says, I watched Maple Leaf Wrestling, unsurprisingly very much like TNA. Decent production, camera work, wrestling, commentary, like a show's been around for years rather than new. Marcel says, hi Tom and chat, what match would you show someone who has never seen WWE to convince them to watch it too? the main event of WrestleMania. It were big. It were big. Xavier says, hi Tom, I love wrestling. Welcome Xavier, and me too. Sid says, do you think AJ Lee will show up in NXT? I don't know. Don't know on that one. We've been talking about it for a while. If AJ Lee was interested, WWE would absolutely make it happen. To my knowledge, AJ Lee is not. Dylan says, Roman isn't going to be doing the Bloodline story for the rest of his career, is he? Because as much as I love the Bloodline story, I don't want Roman's legacy to be known as the Bloodline. Fun fact, the rest of Roman's career is not actually that long. Spider-Boss says, WWE still ignoring KO's attack on Cody. Actually, what Kevin Owens is doing is more interesting than Cody versus Gunther. And that, unfortunately, is why they've had to ignore it. We have 98 people watching, 46 likes, 4 more get us to 50. The 50 typically gets us to 100 viewers. It is pretty standard. In the first half hour, double our likes is our number of viewers. It guarantees that it spreads on YouTube. It guarantees that more people see that we're live and come to watch. It guarantees that we continue to grow. Every like makes a massive difference. So if you can, please do. Next up. When WWE Raw and SmackDown moved to Netflix internationally, there is a whole discussion about what the runtime is going to be. The particular argument is over Raw. The runtimes are not finalized. Netflix wants as much time as possible. They want to launch a live service on the back of this, and so they need as much wrestling as they can get. There is talk of the WWE getting a dedicated Netflix live feed that will just be pure WWE content, and so they need the backlog. They need stuff like WWE Chronicle, Ride Along, and all that jazz. That is what Netflix want. However, in order to get that, the WWE want a higher income, particularly if they're going to extend their shows. They'll need to pay more wrestlers to make their appearances, and they are trying to convince Netflix to spend more money. An overrun is being discussed and negotiated, but this was not part of the original negotiation. This is why there is talk of Raw changing time. This is why there is talk of SmackDown changing time. The WWE are trying to look at this as a negotiating tactic to increase their overall amount of money. So the question I have for all of you now, what is the ideal length of time for a wrestling show? If you're going to sit down and watch a wrestling show, how long do you watch before you start to think, getting a bit bored? And how short is too short? I personally think an hour-long show is too short now. I do. 2 hours for me is the standard. That's how long a wrestling show should be. That's how much I would enjoy. Do you disagree? Thank you, Joe, as always, for making sure that you're saying hi to everyone. This is a really easy way to boost the chat rate, so everyone's aware. Chat rate is another one that guarantees higher views and higher viewers. So Joe making sure that he says hello to everyone who comes in, he is actually massively supporting the growth of this channel. If you're that way inclined and you want to help build the community here, say hi to each other. Shah Game says, does Triple H have plans to move Jakara, Jackson, Lash Legend to the main roster imminently, or is he building some up so they can take the tag titles off Bianca Jade? Lil from column A, Lil from column B. It is an attempt to address a lack of diversity at the moment. Michael says, Jimmy and Naomi Jr. were fighting for tribal chief in 20 years. There is a reason Jey Uso's son is being introduced as fluently as he is right now. Trekipedia says there's so many Fatu, Sikoa and Tonga family members. I could see it going on for a long time, and that's pretty cool. Same. Sid says the YouTube stream is going perfect. Thank you, as always, Sid. Ed says I'd show someone WrestleMania 25 match between HBK and Taker. Well, if you're going to pick one match to introduce a fan to wrestling, that's certainly a good one. Joe would show you WrestleMania 29, John Cena and The Rock. Calvin, 205 Live is gone now. Razar says, I don't remember the exact source, but saw something about WWE returning to Perth in 2025. Have you heard anything about this? Yes, it is going to be my next piece of news. Bailey says, I watched Johnny Gargano's YouTube clip on his travels to the UK. That's a lot of late nights at a hotel and morning flights in just 4 days. And to think Ric Flair once wrestled 350 times in 1 year. Fewer dates makes so much sense. It is something that Triple H is pushing for. Drakepedia suggests the Austin versus Brett match from WrestleMania 13. The spot with which bust Drew McIntyre open was supposed to be an homage to that, particularly the ring bell spot at WrestleMania 13. CM Punk, Andrew McIntyre were trying to make a genuine homage to WrestleMania 13. Joey says, do you think we get a KO versus Cody match at War Games? Yes, I do. Charles Games says, I chose someone the Sami Zayn versus Johnny Knoxville match from WrestleMania 38. It's pure dumb fun, which, to be fair, that's a great choice because it really did make me feel a lot of things, you know? Dylan says, why is London interested in the Super Bowl when it's American sport over WrestleMania, which is arguably bigger than football? WrestleMania in general, not bigger than the Super Bowl, but what I will say is, as I mentioned on Friday's show, it's not one or the other. They want both. Joey says, will Netflix have reduced commercials for Raw? There's an argument that you could get a subscription package which removes adverts altogether. This is another thing that's actively under discussion. If they can drive enough people to sign up, you'll get no ads. Sid says, Sting says he signed a multi-year deal with WWE. It's like a licensing deal. It's basically a Legends contract in WWE. He's paid to make certain promotional appearances and sell merch so that WWE can't have him. Pretty standard. Dad says, would Punk have a match at Crown Jewel or Survivor Series? No, yes. As regards the length of a show, Juan wants 2 hours tops. Marcel will be down for a 2.5. Michael says, for a weekly show, 2 hours is the right length. Jackie PD says, for me, a wrestling show ideally is 2 or 2.5 hours. Jon wants 3 hours, Dylan wants 2. This kid says, did you see on Sportskeeda, Vince Russo confirmed one of your reports? He said that he knows for a fact that Stephanie is back with the company. Didn't see that, doesn't surprise me. After all, I mentioned this ages ago, she is backstage and she is actively doing stuff. I'm surprised it's not more common knowledge. It will be eventually. The other Mike wants 2.5 hours, Scorpio needs 3. Chris has become accustomed to 3 as well. Hector says 2.5 hours, 3's too much, and 1 is not enough. Declan bucks the trend. He wants 3 hours and 30 minutes. He wants more Raw. Bailey says ideal 30-minute pre-show, 2-hour show, then 30-minute post-show, 3 hours of content. Not a bad show. Noob says hello, Mr. Colohue. Hello, Noob. Sid says, will Raw and SmackDown still be on Monday and Friday on Netflix? That is the plan at the moment. Calvin says, even though Brett was always getting screwed by Steve, I do understand why people started to fall out of love with Brett during their feud. Primarily, I'd imagine, the heel turn. That has 2 to 3 hours. Dylan says, in January, is it going to be on Netflix or is there going to be a secondary thing they have to pay extra for on Netflix? It's going to be on Netflix. Spiderbell says 2 hours SmackDown had 2 women's matches, 2 hours of Raw, and 1 women's match. It does come down to what they put on it. Ross says 2 hours for TV, 3 for PLE. Fair play. And as it says, 2.5 hours Raw, should be SmackDown, should be 3 hours. Okay. Spiderbell says I would show Eddie Guerrero versus Kurt Angle at WrestleMania 20. Also a good shout. And Chris says I want a Haku return with G.O.D. One says, does Samantha Irvin have a 90-day clause which could prevent her from joining AEW? Not to my knowledge, no. Though as I mentioned, I don't believe she's going to go there straight away. Declan says WWE needs more women's main events at WrestleMania. Only 1 so far. And Razar says 3 hours with commercials, 2 hours commercial free. Raw being 2.5 hours with shorter or no commercials on Netflix would be ideal, in my opinion. Joe says I think 3 hours for SmackDown and 2 hours for Raw. King Other says if I had to show a non-wrestling fan a match, it'd be The Rock versus Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 18. Outside of the crowd going nuts, I don't think that's a great match. Ray said I did like Seth Rollins versus Nakamura Last Man Standing. Did you? I can't remember the one that you're talking about, to be honest, so it doesn't stand out for me. Joey says, do you know if Roman is booked to work Crown Jewel? To my knowledge, he is. Spiderball says weekly show, 2 hours is fine. Sean says Fightful Select said they've spoken to sources within TNA saying that Joe Hendry will be a focal point in their shows in 2025. Also said his contract with the company runs until late 2025. Thank you, Fightful Select, for confirming my reporting. Trekipedia says, is SmackDown going to be next day on Netflix starting next year for the States? No, it'll be live. Tony says, how that is possible in your opinion that Bray didn't choose Alexa for Wyatt 6? Even Bo said Bray was choosing every single member of Wyatt 6. Said she wouldn't be a member. Didn't say he didn't choose her. Different thing entirely. There is a different story being told than what Bray Wyatt initially wanted to tell. Okay? Need to make that clear. Ray says, if you could watch as many wrestling companies you want, what wrestling companies would you watch? Primarily WWE still, probably more AEW. And New Japan constantly. Calvin says, I've said it before, but they've dragged out New Day and A-Town Down Under splitting too long to it'll be hard to get people interested again. Marcel says, thanks for all the suggestions for matches. You're very welcome. Ash says, will the Wyatt 6 be on Raw live? At this point, I simply don't want to make that guess. We have had so many times where it's felt like it's time and then they don't turn up. I just don't want to take the risk on this one and steer you in the wrong direction. 90 people watching, 56 likes, 4 more to 60. Let's talk a bit more news. The WWE's international commitments. I've been speaking to people within the WWE to try and find out what countries are currently bidding to get the WWE PLEs in 2025. Some of these won't be surprises, some of these will be. Let's talk more about it. So, WWE international commitments already confirmed include returns to the UK, Canada and Australia in 2025. They will build PLEs around that. They're also looking to spend more time in Europe, with Italy and Spain both having apparently put bids in for a WWE PLE after their success in France and Germany. Japan and China are also being discussed at current, though no official bids have been put in. At this point, I would expect next year France and Germany to be replaced by Italy and Spain, but we'll see who else is making bids before we can commit to it. If the WWE paid enough money, they'll go anywhere. Yes, that includes Israel. No, it doesn't include Russia. Just to be clear on that one, it does not include Russia, it does include Israel. Joey says, did TNA let Jordynne Grace out of a deal early so she can go to WWE? No, she's still with TNA. Joey says, do you think we get a Wyatt 6 and Final Testament feud? Eventually, yes, I do. Karrion Kross's name is one of those I will be talking about later, who was also picked by Bray Wyatt. Michael says, what do you think about Zack Sabre Jr. being IWGP champion? It's about damn time. The man is incredible. Watching him live and in action is a gorgeous sight and a real... For me, that's just what wrestling should be. His speed is incredible. He's a worthy champion and very deserving of that position. Also, let's be fair, New Japan needs a new hero. Declan says, WWE uploaded Becky versus Lyra at Halloween Havoc last year on their channel. Is it a sign that Becky could return? No, no connection whatsoever. Calvin's in love with Julius Creed. Jar Game says there's a report from Fightful about AEW forcing talent to sign an agreement that they wouldn't go to WWE in order to work Forbidden Door. True. Debatable. So, I'm aware of the Fightful report. I've read the Fightful report. I don't have Fightful Select, but I've been sent the Fightful report, screenshots. What I will say, at its most simple, is that when it comes to this particular report, the idea seems to be that it's something that the people coming in to crossover shows are supposed to sign to say, I'm not going to WWE tomorrow, so that AEW won't promote them. Forbidden Door's kind of already set, and a lot of people are already signed up, so if there are clauses, they're very specific. Also, I do believe the report didn't state that anyone had signed any of these. The report did not state that any of these clauses are in action, just that people think eventually they might be. Awkward. Trekkipedia says, get Tom to 60 likes, please. Please do, yes. Ray says, did you see Cody Rhodes on Blue Peter on BBC in the UK? I did not. I need to look that up because what a ridiculous world. Dylan says, please, Ireland. This guy says, does Tony Khan not believe in long-term booking? Of course he does. Ross says, a must-see match is Savage Steamboat WrestleMania 3. Hector says, Tom, what's your honest opinion on the Mox takeover? I still need to see more. It's just him and his goons attacking random people each week. There's no real story so far. Let's get into that then, because my next piece of news is as regards AEW Creative having a soft relaunch. With Jimmy Jacobs leaving, with a new creative team being put together by Tony Khan, and with Tony Khan himself less involved than ever in the writing of storylines, AEW have helmed a soft relaunch for the creative team that will reshuffle the deck and focus on different wrestlers. This was helmed and originally inspired by Bryan Danielson's work writing for Blackpool Combat Club, which is where a lot of this Jon Moxley stuff has come from. The new creative team is said to be planning to build around established top-level performers, such as Jon Moxley, Mercedes Moné, and Chris Jericho, ensuring that we're likely to see Chris Jericho back in the top spot relatively soon, at least competing for those championships. This will push people like MJF and others lower down the card, and does mean that the intention is to really focus on people where fans already know exactly who they are. Part of the releases that we're seeing is that the AEW top brass simply don't have anything for these individuals and believe them to be a waste of money if they're going to be focusing more on stars that have already been established. AEW have recognised their struggles getting viewers through the doors at first point of contact. They're looking to capitalise on name value, and with some of the big names that have come over from other companies or that have been established already, like Will Ospreay, like MJF, they do have the stars that can bring people through the door. A focus on Jon Moxley as the focal point of AEW is believed to be more than enough reason to make this happen. Tony Khan is also very aware of fan speculation that Shane McMahon might be arriving to the company. He's feeding that with the Jon Moxley storyline in order to encourage WWE fans, lapsed WWE fans, and basically anyone interested in wrestling to come on over week by week and just see if Shane McMahon actually does turn up. Overall, I wouldn't call it a bad strategy. Joey says, SRS reported AEW might make New Japan talent sign a clause that prevents them from getting to WWE after forbidden door. Have you heard anything on this? I've covered that. Barry says, getting a WWE pay-per-view is getting like the Olympics, World Cup, and biggest of all, Eurovision. Oh, Eurovision. You have my heart and soul. Spider-Boss says, do you think we'll get a Wyatt 6 versus Judgment Day rivalry? Eventually, yes. Pretty much, Dylan, yeah. Because public opinion is very much on the side of one of them and very much not on the side of the other. Calvin says, I wonder how Nikki Bella's been doing. From what I can tell, pretty good. One says, as long as WWE stays away from Russia and Ukraine, they should be good on this tour. Is Mexico an option too? There is a lack of interest in Mexico at the moment, primarily because of presidential rhetoric against it. Oh look, I was political again. Joey says, is TK doing this because of what happened with Steph Vaca? That is a report from Fightful Select. The Rabbit says, hey Tom, how's your day? Going well, thank you, The Rabbit. It's been nice and chill. Welcome to the show. Ishi says, I hope we get Wyatt 6 tonight. And then Villain says, will Carlito and Raquel have a love storyline? God, I hope not. And Sean says, if those vouchers were signed for Forbidden Door, then WWE wouldn't have been able to sign Stephanie Vaca. Yeah, they won't. Lawrence says, AEW can do long-term storytelling. Hangman's story has been going on for 6 years since he hallucinated that he killed Joey Ryan. Honestly, that's the example that everyone should remember, the Hangman Page storyline. Long-term storytelling does exist in AEW. Right now, there's a big reboot. So a lot of things are sort of fast-paced and out of nowhere. They'll settle. Ray says, is Bryan Danielson really retiring? Eventually. He will still have sporadic matches at the moment, but nothing full-time or anywhere close. Joey says, do you think that the chance Bryan goes back to WWE for one last run, or does he finish his career in AEW? I believe he'll finish his career in AEW. Marcel says, there's still hope for Netherlands for pay-per-view, but I think it's not happening. WWE is not popular here. True, but they won't become popular unless they go there. Hector, I wouldn't go that far, but you might be onto something a little bit. Sean says, if they don't have plans for Ricky Starks or Lucha Bros, why not just let them go? Because if they do that, WWE do have plans. Christopher, do you have a new account? Because if you'd already subscribed, then chances are you just unsubscribed. Ray says, do you watch the Dutch Mantel podcast? No. Spiderball says, I'd rather see MJF competing for championship gold instead of watching Jericho competing for championship gold. Michael says, don't say his name or he'll show up. Ishi says, do you think we'll ever get Uncle Howdy versus Roman? Maybe. I find it unlikely. David says, when is the next WWE UK PLE? The rumours are February. Calvin says, a lot of people saying DIY isn't getting over. What do you think? I think these things take time, and I think they've not really had a lot of focus. Pay with Randy Orton, see how it goes. Jackie P says, is Jamie Hayter coming to WWE? She's under contract with AEW. Ed says, Tom, I missed the Shane McMahon summoning via points here on Twitch. One day I'll turn them back on, probably for a watch party when the chat isn't quite as intensive. It'll be a way to keep the fun going. Ron says, I'm happy Tony Khan is now less involved in the creative. Why did he have to wait till now to do it? He simply didn't trust the people he had around him as alternate options. Our Villain says, can we see KO costing Cody the match at Crown Jewel? There's no way the match ends cleanly, right? No chance. No chance of it ending clean. Riyadh says, hey Tom, been a while since I've been here, since I've been doing my honours in accounting this year. Congratulations, keep that going. Hope you and the family are doing well, doing very well so far. Riyadh's still working on the house, but we've been making some good strides recently and I'm feeling very good about it. I've been painting and enjoying it. Two things I did not expect to be doing. I mean, this wall did me the world of good. For those who are into DIY, I'm not, but to break down what I'm doing, I'm taking the top level of skimming, so the plaster, off because it's all cracked and worn, so I'm clearing that out everywhere. Then I'm going to move what I've got my TV set up over there. I'm going to move all of this that way a little bit, so the wall will change behind me. And then I'm going to break this wall, because that's also skim. So I need to break all that. So it will need to be repainted. Then in January, I'll take a couple of days off. We'll plaster the whole thing. I'll lay a carpet to get rid of the echo in here. Before you know it, I'll have a nice studio. What colour do you guys think I should get behind me? Like, I've got white at the moment, and you know, it's nice. It's simple. I eventually, because this is like there's an alcove here. Like this goes into an alcove. So I was thinking I can make something here, both for sound dampening, like some sort of bookcase, and also because it'll look good. So, I don't know, what colour do you guys want? What do you want here? Talk to me. Talk to me. Maybe I can do a bit of red and blue, go Raw SmackDown, but like bright, so that I don't get washed out. Sid says, have you seen the Bray DLC for WWE 2K24? Yes, I have. They know what they're doing. Trekkipedia says, thank you, Tom. My friend got to meet Jamie Hayter. She asked her to chop her twice. Jamie did it and said, my friend is hardcore. It does sound pretty hardcore. I asked Gunter to chop me once. He said no, because he thought I'd genuinely die. It's probably not wrong. Calvin says, how would you react if AEW and TNA joined forces and invaded WWE? I'd be very surprised, because that really doesn't help WWE at all. Spider-Boss says, do you think Rhea will get involved in Liv versus Nia Crown Jewel? No, I think she'll be distracted elsewhere. The Rabbit says, when Randy turns, will he sign with Kevin again? Who knows at this point, to be honest? I don't think so. Not something I ever expected to hear, Rihanna. Bob the Builder quote. How do we? Calvin says definitely red. Lauren says blue. It says green, so that it will be a personal green screen. Hate the colour green. Hate the colour green. Green screen's not a bad idea, but my intention is to do a green screen there. So I can do separate recording there. I don't know, there's a lot to do. Rabbit says blue. David wants pink. Barry wants pink and silver stripes. Wow, why? Lauren says, oh, use blue and red alternating insulation panels. There will be insulation panels. There'll be soundproofing as well. So that'll be, you know, the black foam will be in there. I'll certainly, my intention is to put that behind the bookcase. So against this wall, put all that foam on it. Put it on this wall here that you don't really see too much of. As I took myself more into the corner where I've got my backdrop so that you don't really see it. But all of this part here will be soundproofed. It's helpful, isn't it? Brad says, I like blue or light green. Chris says, my prediction, the Bloodline cost Jay the Intercontinental Championship against Braun Breaker tonight on Raw. Marcel says, red. Lauren says, I'll just black with the acoustic foam, which is, yeah, one of the things I'm certainly considering. But I do want to put that behind some sort of centerpiece. But it depends. Like, if I put myself over here, where you can see more of it, maybe I should do something there and also maybe put the chat up, you know? Maybe then I can put the chat from all the different streams on there, and we do something slightly different with these overlays. That's an option available to us. I can talk to Simon. We can make some tweaks. I don't know. We could do a bit more. We could be a bit more inventive. Hector says, if you have an outlet nearby, I do. Maybe you can go with neon lights or string lights of some sort. Maybe just a good old-fashioned Tom Colohue. Maybe that could work. I don't know. Maybe we make the overlay real. Riyadh says blue and red for Raw and SmackDown. Trekkipedia also says blue. John says, what do you think the main event for Halloween Havoc will be? Trick versus Ethan for NXT Championship, or Julia and Stephanie versus Cora and Roxanne? I would be in the NXT Championship. Spider-Ball says, I think Rhea will get involved in Liv versus Nia Crown Jewel just for beating up Raquel Rodriguez. Calvin says, what pop superstars can you see appearing on a WWE show? Olivia Rodrigo. Rhea says, breaking the walls down like Jericho. Don't tempt me. I will make that a thing. True Spider-Boss. Yeah, Bismarck, I'm not intending to do that. Don't you worry. I like the stripped back, sort of back to basics approach. It suits me and I'd like to keep it going. Angel says, I saw a report that Randy versus Cody might happen at Royal Rumble. It's not a report. If they're reporting that something might happen, it's a guess. Declan, I don't really see the need for that. I prefer foam, to be honest. I prefer foam. It's easy to attach. Bit of glue on the back. Job's a good one. Calvin says, I can almost imagine New Day and A-Town Down Under splitting during the Royal Rumble match. Shard Game says, DIY is finally getting over, just not the kind that Triple H wanted. Trickipedia says, why is Triple H or Shawn not brought Poppy back? No interest at this point. They just want something new and fresh. Ria says, Tom, do you think Ethan Page will be on the main roster next year? Yes, I do. And Sid said, do you listen to music when you work on your house? If you do, what do you listen to? I go into YouTube Studio. Lately, I've been looking at some stuff that I've not heard in a while. So, Bismarck by Sabaton, I think they are. There's a bit of that. A bit of Battle Beast, which is a bit classic techno rock that I quite enjoy. A lot of Muse. And the Devil May Cry 5 soundtrack. Also an eclectic band by Arjun Anthony Lucasen called Arian. They are kind of my jam. Joey says, do you have any news on Lillian Garcia being backstage at Raw tonight? I do not. I've seen the report about it, but I've not been able to confirm it. Spartan says, up Tom, how's your day been going today? Any news on Sami Zayn? Welcome, Spartan. As regards news on Sami Zayn, they are essentially making you forget him a little bit and pushing him to the background because, in short order, he'll be a key factor in the bloodline once again. Chris Martin, interesting, Sid. Drew McIntyre returns from his break to tonight's Monday Night Raw. There will be an overlap designed to enforce his separation from CM Punk so that they are not on the same show at any point for a number of weeks until at least around Survivor Series time. That means they can both move on from each other without each other in their rearview mirrors. It's why Punk has taken a break, but he got the first Raw to say goodbye, whereas McIntyre has taken the break that I mentioned straight after now. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out in the weeks to come. But Drew McIntyre returns tonight. He's had his break, he went back home to Scotland, and now he's ready to get back involved in the action. Drew McIntyre returns tonight. Hector says, Tom, was the Ethan Page CM Punk feud that was started in NXT planned just a one-off? Because that would be a great way to bring Ethan up, to have him attack CM Punk when he does. CM Punk essentially trying to get eyes on Ethan Page because he's personally a fan of Ethan Page. Declan says, could Tom Phillips return to WWE? Almost anyone could return, apart from Chris Jericho. Riyadh says, very disappointed about Undertaker and Trump. Should be called the Brothers of Disappointment now. Barry says, get a board as a background and write on it. Claim his famous guest autographs without saying who any of them are. Interesting option. I do like the idea of a whiteboard though. Like I could work with that. And we write something wrestling related on there each time and something not wrestling related. Maybe people who donate, I put their names on it, something like that. Chris says, I also have Roxanne Perez on the main roster next year after she loses her NXT Women's Championship the night after WrestleMania 41. Sid says, would you like to see Tyson Fury return to WWE and have another match? Hell no. Sean said, it's almost been a year since Punk's return. What are your thoughts on his return so far? Used incredibly well. Going well backstage. Also seems to have been humbled, probably because he realises this is probably going to be his last chance of the big time, so to speak. He also is happy, so that's good news as well. The return certainly turned heads. They are still trying to get back to the WrestleMania match. Wikipedia says, I think we'll see Roxanne being the Women's Rumble as her call-up. Span says, which celebrity would you like to see in WWE? Difficult, because there's a lot of them. If you could train them, Scarlett Johansson would be fun. Brings name value. Got a pretty big name because of the action scenes in Avengers. If you give her that training, that'd be fun. How about Ryan Reynolds? Imagine a Ryan Reynolds CM Punk promo. Give me that. Give me that. CM Punk. Ugh. Calvin said that Tyson Fury Austin Theory feud would be awesome. Imagine Fury wanting revenge for what happened at Clash of the Castle 2 years ago. Ugh. Again, not great. Horrifying. Spider-Boss says, I see Roxanne on the main roster shortly after losing the NXT Women's title. Hector says, I like Undertaker and Kane, but seriously dislike Glenn Jacobs and Mark Calloway. Can't blame you. Spawn says, Tom, what is inside thoughts on Ridge Holland in NXT? Taking a few knocks to the confidence because of some unfortunate injuries. They're trying to rebuild him. He's not a confident man anymore. Rhea says, Tom, do you think Kenny Omega will be back wrestling by the end of the year? If you want to check out what's going on with Kenny Omega, I reported on that one on Friday's show. Check it out. Tricky Beatty says, is Bad Bunny returning to WWE? Yes, he will be there again shortly. Calvin says, do you think Drew will attack Wade tonight? Maybe. They do need something to split them off. And Barry says, WWE need to get Jedward in as a tag team. And Barry, how effing dare you? How dare you? 97 people watching, 63 likes, 2 more to 65. Let's keep that ball rolling. The Rock, in his brief appearance during WWE's Bad Blood show, recorded over a month's worth of promotional content for WWE programming, which he is now drip feeding out on his own social media. I can also confirm that there is a lot more than what we've seen so far, that we won't see for quite a while, that's designed to build up towards his eventual WrestleMania match. He had his own film crew in attendance who were there to create for his social media, to catch everything, and now his own editing team has been putting the work together to make this happen. I'm interested to see what comes out of it next, but The Rock cut about 40 minutes of promo backstage at Bad Blood, which we will be seeing more of in the weeks to come. Just thought I'd throw that one out there, because as piece of news go, that's insane. So it says Tom Phillips is in TNA as Tom Hannifan. He is a commentator. He is indeed. The next piece of news will be as regards the Wyatt 6, specifically talking about the USA Today interview. Before I get onto that, I just want to do a quick recap of the channel at the moment, because, once again, channel doing extremely well. My latest short is as regards Samantha Irvin leaving the WWE. In the first hour and 49 minutes, it's had 715 views. Today, we reached a new record, 7,718 subscribers. And in addition to that, these live shows continue to do well. We're currently at 398 views and we've peaked at 112 people watching. Now, admittedly, the live shows aren't necessarily attracting too many new people who stick around, but the shorts are doing very, very well. I need to rethink the long form stuff, because, to put it blunt, stuff like PLE Wednesdays could be a 3-minute short. It genuinely could. Now, I'm going to stick with PLE Wednesdays, but I need to come up with something new that's real long form. 10-minute videos, not enough anymore. I need long form content that fits a niche and that satisfies what people are interested in. Some of my most successful videos so far are as regards the WTF wrestling section, particularly focus on areas like CM Punk, Mercedes Money, and Vince McMahon. I do think there is potential in a somewhat alternate version of the Vince McMahon documentary, sharing intimate details of the scandals that he has been involved in over the years. But there's more than just Vince McMahon. There's more than just what has been and what is to come. There is room, I feel, for some genuinely interesting crossover between wrestling and true crime, in the style of those true crime authors, those true crime YouTubers. Give me wrestling storylines. Give me backstage politics. Give me the flight from hell. I could go into these things. I could make what I feel would be compelling videos for them. So you know what? That's the plan. That's something I'm considering. Let me know if that's something you guys are interested in, because at the moment, the live shows are doing great. The shorts are doing great. The long form is struggling. So let's see what we can do with a brand new system. Rosal says, I'm over The Rock, in my opinion. He's only back in wrestling because he fell off in Hollywood and his movies were bombing. Blair, thank you. Drekipedia says, I miss Young Rock. That was a good show. Spider-Bell says, I think The Rock doesn't have to win the 2025 Royal Rumble to face Cody at WrestleMania. The Rock just skips the line and goes after Cody, which is pretty much the plan. Drekipedia says, Rosal, no one has a perfect career, which I think is a good counter. Moana 2 will be a hit when that comes out in a few weeks. Definitely going to watch it. Declan says, have a great week. Have a great week to you too, Declan. Have a good time. It says, long form, you mean like arguing with a mod for 20 minutes? I mean, I wouldn't love it. I don't like to argue. I'm lovely. Trekopedia says, I'd be interested in that, Tom. Thank you, Trekopedia. Appreciate that. Spiderbell says, Robert De Niro played Dirty Grandpa on the big screen. Vince played Dirty Grandpa in real life. Okay, fair enough. Riyadh says, the wrestling and true crime crossover tries great, Tom. Maybe you could change the presentation, look at the video to make it more of a noir style. I think that's a good shout, Riyadh, and something worth considering. Something that's immediately eye-catching. I'll need to learn a bit better editing style, but I think you're absolutely right, and that's something I'll be considering. Something a bit more eye-catching in the editing. In the Discord, I will be asking for opinions, particularly from the mod team, but in general I'll be asking out loud. Anyone in the Discord who has opinions on this, I want to hear it. Chris says, Solo, Cody Rhodes, Bayley and WWE Women's Champion Nia Jax are backstage at tonight's Raw. Not a surprise. Calvin says, Rock would probably enter the Royal Rumble match just to get extra time on TV. Brad is definitely interested. David, personal question, gonna leave it there. Sean says, what do you think these big plans for Charlotte are at WrestleMania 41 that's being reported? Who's reporting that, Sean? Who's reporting that? Because I've already reported what's going on with Charlotte at WrestleMania. Bo Dallas has confirmed by reporting that the Wyatt Six were hand-picked by Bray Wyatt rather than Bo Dallas himself. This is one of the reasons that we are seeing a bit of a disconnect at the moment, and they're trying to sort of reshuffle the storyline into a form that works with where we are now compared to where we were with Bray Wyatt, who is, as we know, unfortunately, no longer with us. Others that Wyatt wanted to work with include Eric Young, Karrion Kross, and Scarlett. I've mentioned before that Wyatt's chosen successor was Joe Gacy, and with many names and many bodies to work with as the story unfolds, Joe Gacy will definitely get his chance to prove and justify that position. Joe Gacy is where the focus is going to be eventually, but for now they are still working to establish Uncle Howdy, to establish Bo Dallas. There is still something of a reshuffle happening, but it is simply because of all the people that Bray Wyatt chose. Things have moved. Alexa Bliss, for example, not being available. Braun Strowman having picked up a number of injuries. Things have moved. Things have reshuffled, and they now need to adapt to this. Andrew says, any news on Undertaker's appearance for Halloween Havoc? It's rumoured. What I want you to do, Andrew, zip right back to the beginning of the show. It is our top story. Spider-Boss says, after watching the WTF wrestling videos about Mercedes money, I understand pretty well why Mercedes doesn't like wrestling media. I agree. And Calvin says, Eric Young would so kill it being involved with the Wyatt Six. Well, everyone, it's been a hell of a show, and thank you very much for keeping me company. We will have another video on Wednesday, another live on Friday. We will not have WTF Wrestling this week as I try and work out how to present what comes next. But in the meantime, just want to say a massive thank you to everyone. I hope you enjoy Raw. I've been Tom Colohue. You've been fantastic, and I'll see you all very soon.